Hey y'all, I'm Hope, and today I'm going to be doing my November TBR. I'm doing something a little bit different this month, and I'm actually re-recording this. Please forgive the messy background. I went to edit this and all my footage was corrupted, so we're trying this again. But I'm doing something different this month. I'm actually scrapping my TBR Betrayal TBR game, which I'm kind of gutted about, but I took 2 months off to do readathons, and I realized that my game was really not working for me because I did a lot of reading during these 2 readathons, and I have done very little reading the rest of the year. I don't see any point in continuing to do something that isn't working, so I'm scrapping that, and we are just going to do something totally different. And I'm using this as an opportunity to also create a buying ban, so I'm going to combine my TBR thing with kind of a buying ban thing. And basically the plan is that I've got this jar, and I have a bunch of marbles that I collected when I was a kid. At the end of every month, I'm going to take the list of books that I've read, and I'm going to count up how many of those were books that I already owned, because I really want to kind of bring down my physical and ebook TBR and audiobook. I want to bring down my own TBR. I'm going to count up how many of those were owned. They didn't come from the library. They aren't from Kindle Unlimited. And I'm going to put a marble in this jar for every one of those books. And then for every 10 marbles that I get, I can order, buy, or pre-order a book. So that's the plan. But I did want to add a little bit of a game element, so I'm also going to have 2 challenge books every month. One of those is going to be chosen using my spreadsheet of all of my own books and these 2 dice. And I'll show you how that's going to work in a minute. And the other one is going to be chosen using these cards, which were very kindly made for me by my partner. He was helping me revamp TBR Betrayal before I decided to just scrap it. But I really liked these cards. I thought they were a lot of fun, and since he put effort into them, I still wanted to use them. So these are called Boys Degenerate Demands, and they are all based on memes that he really likes. So he picked a bunch of memes, and he made prompts to go with each of them, and I'm going to draw one of these every month. I think there's 15 of them here, or 14 of them, so we've got quite a few. Hopefully we'll get lots of variety, but that is the plan for that. And so I think that is all of the kind of explanation necessary here, and I think let's just dive into the books. I'm going to start with the challenge books so I can show you how that's going to work, especially with the dice, and then I'll talk about the other things I hope to get to this month. Okay, so up first, we're going to roll the dice and roll the d20 first, which has given me the number 4. Then we're going to roll the d12, which has given me the number 12. So I need to find the 12th 4 in my spreadsheet. So let's jump over to that. Here's my spreadsheet. I have it sorted by unread only. And this is my random number generator. So I need the 12th 4. So I'm just going to mix things up a little bit here. It reloads every time I do something. We're going to go with 4. Looks like we have plenty of 4s. Some of these will be in 14. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And this has given me The Hungry Earth by Nicholas Kaufman, which is actually really funny. That's a pretty new book I just got, and I'm really excited to read it, so that worked out perfectly. So now let's pop back to the main view. There we go. Next up, we've got to do the challenge card pick. So I've got my cards right here. I'm going to keep mixing them a little bit. I don't know what's what here. I have one that I'm really hoping I don't get because it's a big book. So I don't know. Do I want purple? Do I want orange? I want green. I think we'll just go for this green right here. And I've gotten Fuck Nazim, which if you're not familiar, it refers to Nazim from Skyrim, who is just kind of a jerk to you every time you walk by him. He's always like, oh, do you get to the Cloud District very often? Oh, who am I kidding? Of course you don't. And it's just like, he's a pompous jerk. So let's see what prompt this is, because I don't remember. Fuck Nazim, read a book centered around nobility or the ruling class. Okay, that's going to be interesting. I'm going to have to think about that one for a few minutes. So I will be back shortly with the books I picked for this. Hopefully. Okay, I'm back. It took me a while to find something for fuck Nazim, but I did. So, first up, I have the book that the dice gave me, which is The Hungry Earth by Nicholas Kaufman. This is the newest release by Nicholas Kaufman. He's one of my favorite authors. This one is a medical thriller that follows a medical examiner in a small town in New York when some people begin to behave kind of strangely, and somebody, I think, commits suicide, and she's called in to examine the body and realizes that they're dealing with something that they've never seen before, and there is something with an intelligence that is driving people to do things they wouldn't otherwise do. So she's trying to stop it. It's I've read that a couple of reviews have said that this is like very much categorized as a thriller as opposed to a horror novel, but the author himself writes a lot of horror, so this is very like horror tinged. So I think it'll be interesting. It definitely sounds spooky and creepy. We have a kind of a sense of what's going on based on this cover, which I absolutely love. I think this is a fantastic cover. I'm really excited to get into this one. Like I said, Nicholas Kaufman is one of my favorite authors. I think he writes really great characters that just feel like real people. So I am thrilled that this one popped up and really couldn't be happier with how well the dice went this month. And then, like I said, I had some trouble coming up with something for fuck Nazim, but I ended up choosing Mazes of Power by Juliette Wade. This is described as a sociological sci-fi, but it's set in this, like, city that's in a cavern, and there's a plague beginning to wipe out people, and his eminence, I think, is, like, the kind of emperor of this underground society, dies, and the kind of children of the other noble families are given an opportunity to try and compete to become the new ruler. And one of them, I believe his name is Taggart, is kind of pushed to try to become the new ruler because it would give him the ability to help protect his family from his abusive father. It would help him solve a lot of his problems. However, he also has a younger brother, Necantor, who is described here as sociopathic, but he's obsessed with his family's success and will do anything to beat Taggart and undermine him so that he can become, so that Necantor can become the new ruler. So it's about, like, power and the struggle for power, and also about, like, should the system be continued or should it be brought down. So I think it sounds like it's going to be really cool. I think this fits this prompt really well, and I've been looking for a reason to read this. So yeah, I'm really happy about this. I had a lot of options, so it was kind of hard to pick something. But those are the two books I need to read for my challenges. I do have several other things that I am hoping to read. First up, I am participating in BookTube Spin number 4, which started in October. So we have October through December to read the books, and I think Rick did 2 spins for that reason because there was a lot of time, but I'm just going to read the first one because I know I won't get through 2. But I've got The Beautiful Ones by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. This was the first roll, it was 8. This was 8 in my list. And this one is a, like, novel of manners with a fantasy element because Nina, the main character, has telekinetic abilities. And so she's trying to, like, integrate into kind of high society and begin looking for a husband. People don't really like her because she's kind of weird and she has these, like, weird telekinetic abilities that she doesn't know how to control. But then she meets Hector Avray, who is a telekinetic performer, and he kind of takes her under his wing and tries to teach her how to control her abilities. And it's about Nina's relationship with Hector, as well as some secrets that Hector is keeping from her. So I've read part of this. I started this a while back, and I was really enjoying it. I think I'm just under 100 pages in, and I just love this book. I think it is beautifully written, and I think that the characters are so fascinating, and they all have really interesting motives, so I'm really interested to see what happens. I'm looking forward to reading more of this. So I feel pretty confident I'll get to that one. And then there's a couple of book clubs that I want to read the books that they picked for the month, just because I'd like to tune in for the live shows when those happen. So the Literally Dead book club is reading The Death of Jane Lawrence by Caitlin Starling, which is a gothic story inspired by Crimson Peak, about a woman who marries a well-respected doctor, only to find that something is very wrong at his family home. And then I think it's the Enchanted book club, and I can't remember who all hosts this, but I think Steph from Coffee Over Apples is one of the hosts. And this is The Wolf and the Woodsman by Ava Reed. I totally apologize if I got that wrong. I seem to have somehow deleted my notes on this, but I'm pretty sure it's the Enchanted book club that's reading this. And this one follows a woman who is sent as a blood sacrifice from her village to the king, but on the way to the king, the caravan she's in is attacked, and she and the leader of the woodsmen that were kind of protecting the caravan are the only two survivors. And so she ends up finding out that he is a disgraced prince. He's related to the current crown prince, and they end up trying to, like, overthrow the prince. So I think that sounds like a lot of fun. I've also heard it's very autumnal and spooky, so it should be a really good book for November. And then I have, like, 3 other books that I'd like to get to, plus one that I'm currently reading. Actually, 2 that I'm currently reading that I would like to finish. So I'll start with the one that's on my desk. I have Empire of the Vampire by J. Kristoff, which I started ages ago, like at the beginning of October. I'm about 200 pages in. I am really liking this so far. There are bits where I'm like, the writing is a little suspect here. I don't know what locked like a secret is supposed to mean, but overall I am enjoying this. I think that the characters are interesting. I particularly want to know more about Baptiste. I think he seems like he's going to be really cool. And is it Saoirse? I think it's Saoirse. There's a warrior named Saoirse, and I want to know more about her. So there's some really cool characters happening. I think that the main character, he starts out feeling a little bit underdeveloped, but I am liking him more as the story is going on. So I am hopeful that I'm going to end up enjoying this. I really didn't know what to expect because this is the first thing I picked up by J. Kristoff. So we shall see. I've got a lot of pages to go, like 500 of them. Get that back in my basket. And then the other book I'm currently reading actually has an ebook from the library, and this is Jade City by Fonda Lee, which is the first book in the Greenbone saga, and I'm about a quarter of the way through that, and I'm really loving that. I really like the writing in it. It's another book where I think that the character dynamics are really interesting. A lot of the first 100 pages is like setting up who is who and how they interact with each other. So I actually really love that because I am a very character-driven reader. I think it's wonderful, and I am really looking forward to getting into more of that one. However, I know it's due to the library soon, and there's a bunch of people waiting, and I won't be able to renew it. So I'm not sure if I'm going to actually get to finish that in November. It will definitely depend on whether I can, like, either finish it before it's due in a couple of days, or hopefully get it back relatively quickly. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know if I'll get to that one in November. And then lastly, I have 3 that I haven't started yet that I would like to get to. First up is The Silence of Bones by June Her, which is a historical mystery set in Korea, following a 16-year-old girl who I believe she's orphaned, and she's entered to the police bureau, and she gets paired up with this detective to work on this murder case. And as things go on, it starts to look like he might be the prime suspect, and she, despite having very limited resources, has to try and clear his name. So I'm really excited to read this because I keep hearing that the writing is really good in this one. I also really love historical mystery, and I really love stories that have like a strong friendship as the center relationship. I always think that that's really fun. I know a lot of books have kind of romance at the center, but I love a good friendship in a book. So I'm really excited to read that. Then I've got My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones, which is his newest release. I think it came out last month. But this one is following a teenager named Jade, who's kind of an outcast in her town, but she's obsessed with slasher movies, and things start happening that make her believe that maybe she's living in a slasher, and she ends up using her encyclopedic knowledge of slasher movies to try and survive. So I think that sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. I've seen a lot of people say this really is an ode to slasher movies, which I've really just gotten into recently. But I did love his previous full novel release, The Only Good Indians. I thought that was a fantastic book. It really stuck with me. I read it almost exactly a year ago, and I think I've thought about it at least weekly since then. It's a book that just like lives rent-free in my head, and I think about it all the time. So I'm hopeful that this one will have a similar impact on me. I know I love his writing, so I'm very excited to pick this one up. And then the last one is another one from an author whose writing I absolutely love. This one is A Desolation Called Peace by Arcady Martin. This is the second book in the Takes Kalan duology, and the first book follows Mahit, who's this young woman from a small mining station. She becomes the new ambassador to the Empire, so she goes from her mining station to the Empire capital of Takes Kalan, and When she arrives, she finds out that her predecessor has been murdered and nobody will tell her anything about it. So she has to try and figure out like why he was murdered and who killed him and all of that kind of thing, while also trying not to get murdered herself and also trying to actually do her job. So it's basically a book about a woman having like the worst first week at a job ever. But as is the theme with me, it's a book with really fantastic characters and really interesting character dynamics where they have interesting relationships with each other. There's a lot of really cool reveals in it, particularly around some of the characters. There's a mentor character that I think is maybe the most interesting mentor character I've ever read. He has a really interesting presence in the book, and I don't want to say any more than that because anything else would be a spoiler, but I absolutely love A Memory Called Empire, and I'm really, really excited to get to this one. I actually pre-ordered it and never got around to reading it because I was doing some classes at the time and just didn't have the time to read. But I really want to get to this one, and I think this opens up the world a lot because it's got some new POV characters as well. So I'm just super, super excited. Really, honestly, like this selection, if I can get to all 3 of these, this will be like perfect month because I'm just so excited for all of them. But those are all of the books I'm hoping to get to in October. The disclaimer here is that I will not read all of them in, did I say October? I meant November. I'm not going to get to all of them. It's simply not going to happen. I can't read that fast. I also have too many other hobbies. I'm also knitting a hat for myself and also playing lots of horror games at the moment. So I'm not going to get to all of these, but these are the ones that I'm kind of going to try and prioritize. So at least some of these will get read, and I feel like I've got a really good selection for November that I'm really excited about. So I'm thinking it's going to be a good reading month. But that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you'll consider maybe giving it a like or even subscribing to see what comes next. I would also love to know what book you're most excited to read next month. What's something that you've been waiting to get to, maybe because it's like we're getting into fall and the weather is getting colder. If there's something that you love to read in the fall, what are you excited to read? I really want to know. I'm always looking for new recommendations, so let me know down in the comments. If you don't want to write an answer, if you don't have one, leave, leave a bone emoji for the silence of bones, if you made it to the end here. And I just want to say thank you one more time for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.